What's going on, Deep Threat Sports Network? Bryant here, filling in for Josh this week on our NFL podcast. Today, we're going to dive into week four and also do a recap of what happened in week three, Thursday night, Sunday, and yesterday. So, with that being said, I'm here with Logan and Austin. We're our NFL crew here on Deep Threat Sports Network. At first, we're going to dive into each person's record from their week three picks. Austin, how'd you do?
Yeah, I had a pretty good week. Went 10-6 on the week. Pretty happy with that. There's a lot of toss-up games, so I'm pretty pleased with 10-6. Will say I am most pleased with my big upset pick, Vikings over Texans, and they blew them out of the water. So good week for me, I think.
Yeah, that was quite a wild game. Vikings are off to a crazy start. Nobody really saw this coming, especially with JJ McCarthy getting hurt in the preseason. Anyway, Logan, how'd you do this week?
Well, I went 8-8. Not the best start, but for my first pick 'em, I guess for the year, I'll take it being 500. Kind of disappointed myself not believing in the Rams because I even said don't be surprised if the Rams would win, and look at it, they pulled it out. But yeah, there's a couple games I was kind of surprised by, especially the Houston and Vikings game. That was very surprising to me. But yeah, 8-8. I'll take it for the first week and hopefully build off that for this week.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know about you guys if you guys do any survivor pools or anything, but I think I read a note earlier online that like 85% of survivor pools are already, gone. So there's been a lot of upsets this season. A lot of favorites, heavy favorites of that have lost. So, 8-8 and 10-6 is not bad for the week, especially how some of the games went. I'll recap what Josh did last week. He was 7-9, so still not bad. I'll make picks for him this week since I'm filling in as host. Also, you guys last week gave guaranteed win picks. How did those go?
Yeah, I went with the Thursday night football game, Jets over Patriots. Jets dominated that game in every aspect. They doubled the Patriots' time of possession. They had 40 minutes total time of possession to Patriots 20. Total yards, I think it was 400 total yards to 139 total yards. Jets just completely dominated that game in every aspect, and easy win there for the Jets over the Patriots.
I don't know about you guys, but I did not think Aaron Rodgers would be this mobile in the pocket and getting outside the pocket and making plays. It doesn't even seem like he had an Achilles injury last year.
He looked really good on Thursday. He looked definitely more healthy than he did the first 2 weeks, and I think you're going to keep seeing that as the year progresses. That he's going to keep getting back to his healthy form. It's going to be real good for the Jets.
Yeah, that's good news for Jets fans. I mean, he looks like, prototypical Aaron Rodgers we've seen in the past. Logan, how'd your pick do?
I took the Bills actually last night against the Jags. I knew they would probably win the game, but I was not expecting the game they actually had. I mean, Josh Allen looked phenomenal. Austin called it last week. He's like, Josh Allen's my MVP pick, and I don't think you can pick another guy over him right now to be an MVP. He had 263 yards passing with 4 touchdowns, and on top of it, he had 6 rushes for 44 yards. I mean, what else can you say? He carried the team. At one point, they were up 14-0, and the Jags had 1 yard on offense. I mean, their offense was unreal, and on top of it, their defense is playing well. This team might be the team to beat in the AFC.
Exactly. Josh Allen looks like he's playing like he has in the past few seasons. I mean, without the weapons that he's normally used to with, Gabe Davis and Swan Diggs no longer on this team. He finally got Kincaid involved, which is good to see. So hopefully they continue it, the rest of the season.
Yeah, they actually
Yeah,
got Keon
go
Coleman
ahead.
his first touchdown too.
Yeah, I saw he had like one catch for like 27 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
They got to
Hey,
get
you
him
gotta
more
get the rookie
involved
in.
if they want to go deeper into the season, though, for sure.
Yeah, they got to
I
keep
mean,
James Cook involved and also keep getting Keon Coleman involved too. I agree. I think Logan already alluded to his surprise slash letdown from week three with the Vikings Houston game. Austin, what was something that surprised you with this past week?
I had the Broncos over the Buccaneers on this one. Um, First 2 weeks, Bucks looked really good, like a really complete team. Baker Mayfield looked like he was playing out of his mind the first couple weeks. And the Broncos just looked like they didn't have really anything rolling. It looked like Bo Nix was a little rusty coming in his rookie season. But Broncos came in. Sean Payton looked like had a great game plan for him coming in. Bo Nix played really well. I know he didn't have any passing touchdowns, but he did have a rushing touchdown. And if you just sat down and watched the game, he made a lot of smart decisions. Looked really good. And I think we've seen the Buccaneers kind of come back down to earth there. So that was kind of a big surprise to me was Broncos and how good they looked over the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I agree. On paper, before the game started, it seemed like the score 26-7 Denver was what it probably would have been the other way around in my eyes. But I agree with you. That was definitely a surprise. I'll add one here real quick. I thought the Commanders looked really good last night against the Bengals going on the road. I think Jaden Daniels is probably the best rookie quarterback in the NFL this season. He was damn near perfect. If he can keep that up, I think the Commanders have a legit chance of being a contender in the NFC East. So that was something that very surprised me with Week 3. Anything
I
else you guys
agree.
want to add?
I think the Bengals played a really good game, but I think Jaden Daniels was just so explosive that it was impossible for the Bengals to keep up.
Yeah,
Definitely.
The Bengals really didn't. They didn't really play that bad. They just didn't have enough for the Commanders really in it.
Yeah, I don't think they've played bad all
Um,
season, honestly. I mean, they played good against the Chiefs. They didn't have a great game week 1, but it seems like they're just not figuring it out in the last 5-10 minutes of the fourth quarter and coming up short.
Biggest surprise for my week was the Carolina Panthers. I talked a lot of shit on them last week, and Andy Dalton just made you completely notice that. I don't think this was a team issue. I think he had a quarterback issue, and I hate to say it, but Andy Dalton looked great. He had 319 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. I mean, this team looked totally different with them. So it'd be kind of a hard team to really. You can't really take many games like, oh, the Panthers are terrible. I mean, they're going to play decent football now with Andy Dalton in the helm.
Yeah, credit to Coach Canales for, benching his first round quarterback that they're so heavily invested in for a backup veteran. I mean, it definitely paid off this past week. He was phenomenal. I mean, that was a dominant performance for the Panthers. Week 4.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
All right, we'll start with the Thursday night game. We got the Cowboys at the Giants in New York. It's at 7:15 on Amazon Prime. Sitting right now, the Cowboys are a 6-point favorite. Logan, what do you think about this game?
So, before last week, I would have said this is an easy Cowboys win. But looking at it now, I mean, the Giants looked like a pretty good. I mean, they played the Browns. I know that's not saying a whole lot, but they played a good defense. And actually, I got to watch a little bit of the game. The Giants played pretty well. Daniel Jones played well, and you also have Malik Neighbors, that's an absolute freak right now, wide receiver for him. The Giants, I thought something was pretty interesting about them. The first half, they had 2 drives. One was 15 plays, another was 16 plays, and they both ended on touchdowns. I mean, I don't know how much more you can ask for from a team, that was struggling offensively before them, but I mean, they played really well. Daniel Jones played really good. But then the Cowboys, for me, they had the first 3 quarters was just not good football. And then somehow they got a little spark, but it was a little too late in the fourth quarter, coming up just a little short against the Ravens at home. But for me, I think Dak, I think he's a leader. He really is. I'm not a huge Cowboys fan, but I like Dak's all right to me. And I think CeeDee Lamb and him's going to hook it up this week. I'm going to take the Cowboys in this game.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think the Cowboys are going to pull this one out. I agree with you said, Logan. I know there's a lot of Dak haters out there, but he is a really good team leader. I think the Cowboys aren't the same team as they were last year. You can see that they don't have everything clicking like they usually do, but they're still good enough. The Giants aren't a very good team, but you're right. Malik Neighbors is scary. I do think that the Cowboys just have a little bit too much firepower for Malik Neighbors and the Giants, though.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I like the Cowboys in this one too. I think one issue that the Cowboys are having this season is that they're not as dominant as previous seasons at the running back position. So I think defenses that are playing against are kind of keying in on the pass, and that's kind of limiting them early, and they try to figure it out almost too late in games. So I think that's an issue. Now the Giants, they didn't look very good in week one, but they've gotten it going in offense a little bit with Singletary running ball and throwing a bunch to Malik Neighbors. And Daniel Jones has been very efficient in these past two games. But Cowboys seem to always be pretty good in prime time. So I'm going to follow you guys. I think I'm going to go with the Cowboys as well. Next game, we have the Bengals at the Panthers. That game is at noon on Sunday in Carolina. And as it sits right now, Bengals are a 4.5-point favorite. Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, a lot like what Logan was saying earlier. I think the Panthers and Andy Dalton looked great. Andy Dalton had over 300 passing yards, had 3 touchdowns. But we have to remember that was against the Las Vegas Raiders, not really a standout team by no means. The Bengals, on the other hand, I think looked really good these last 2 weeks. I think they've gotten a little bit unlucky starting 0-3. Joe Burrow has played fantastic last game. He played really good the game before that against the Chiefs. I look to see that continue. I think they'll break their losing streak. I think this offense will continue to figure things out as the season goes along. I think the off-field issues in the offseason kind of has a play in their slow start this year, but I think this is where they're going to get their first win and start to get things kind of rolling on the right direction here.
Yeah, Austin, I completely agree. I think the Panthers are definitely going to give a better game this week now that you have Andy Dalton at quarterback. You can kind of get the ball thrown around a little easier and open up some holes for Chuba Hubbard. But I'm going to have to agree with you. Cincinnati, I think, is going to win this game. They definitely gotten unlucky. I think they should. I'm just going to go back to week 2. They should have beat Kansas City. I think they should be a one. I think they should be a 2-1 football team. They shouldn't have lost to the Patriots either. And that I could give a good reason for them to be 3-0, but they're just not having a lot of luck, and they're 0-3. And you're in a must-win situation. If you want to get back into this division and win, you got to come back and win this week. This is like a must-win in my book, I would say, for the Bengals. And I think you're going to see them come out and keep getting the ball to Jamar Chase. And that's what they did this week, and it worked out, but it just wasn't enough. And really, the Bengals' defense is struggling mightily. And I think that's what's really holding them back. So at some point, you're going to have to get some big stops, and they haven't had that. And it's been relying too much on the Bengals defense. So I think if you can get some stops, I think Cincinnati would take this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Bengals, if their defense picks it up, like you said, Logan, I mean, they've been in some shootout games. The offense hasn't played bad at all. They finally got T. Higgins back. Jamar Chase has been doing well, and they've been getting tight end Gesicki involved as well. So, I mean, if their defense can definitely pick it up a little bit, I think they have a chance. I think this is a week for them. Like you said, must win. This is a week for them to get back on track against a pretty lackluster Panthers team. I think last week was probably an anomaly with that team. I think they just had a little fire underneath them with a new quarterback and wanted to play for him. So we'll see where this one goes. I'm definitely going to follow you guys again and go Cincinnati.
I think the T. Higgins deal definitely helps out Jamar Chase, and it's just going to help everything on that offense, which we already got to see last week.
Definitely, they don't bottle up Jamar Chase as much when they have him as another weapon on the other side of the field. So I definitely agree there. Him coming back, he looked pretty good. He looked like he has the past few seasons when he's healthy. So I think that's a big plus for them down the stretch.
For sure.
All right, next game we got the Saints at the Falcons. This game is at noon on Sunday on Fox in Atlanta. As it sits right now, the Falcons are actually favored of 1.5 points. Bit of a surprise, at least from my standpoint there. Logan, what do you think about this game?
So in this game, for me, I'm going to have to take Atlanta over the Saints this week. I would rather have Kirk Cousins as a quarterback over Derek Carr. I mean, Derek Carr's making throws. I mean, the first 2 weeks, the Saints got brought back. They were out of this world offensively. And last week, they got brought back to earth against the Eagles. Um, the reason I'm going to go with Atlanta, though, I like the weapons they have. Uh, just for a few references, I mean, Drake London finally got a few catches. He had 6 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown. And Darnell Mooney's starting to get the ball a little bit. And he's kind of making himself a bona fide number 2 wide receiver there. And I really like what Atlanta's doing offensively. I know they've had a couple bad breaks here and there, but I mean, at the same time, you got Kyle Pitts that you can get the ball to, which is pretty much a third wide receiver playing the tight end position. And I just think that Atlanta has a really good secondary. I mean, you got to see it a little bit against Kansas City. So, in my opinion, I think I'm going to take Atlanta this week against the Saints.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great game. Good divisional NFC South game. Both teams have shown this year that they have the ability to win games. I think here with the Falcons, they haven't looked necessarily as good as a lot of people thought they were going to coming into the year, especially with all the additions on the defense and the addition of Kirk Cousins. I think the more as the season goes on, the Falcons will start to click a little bit more. It's just going to take time for them when you add all these different pieces. They actually have played a good game against the Chiefs. It just didn't really go their way in the end. I think they are going to utilize Bijan Robinson a little more in this game and scheme him a little better. Last game against the Chiefs, he only had 16 carries for 31 yards. Not really what you want out of your best player. I think they're going to find a way to get him out in open space and let him make plays himself. I think the Saints will put up a really good fight here, but I think the Falcons are going to squeak out a really close one and get a win here.
Good analysis, guys. I'm actually going to go with the Saints in this one. I think they have a slightly more explosive offense, especially downfield with Shaheed and Olave. And then if teams want to take that away, then they can get Kamara going on the ground in the short passing game. I think they just have a little bit more explosive offense. I do agree with you, Logan. I think the Falcons have a better defense overall, but I think the Saints just have a little bit more weapons. Now, I think the Falcons could possibly take this one with, having the home field advantage and playing a little bit better ball last week, but I'm actually going to go with the Saints in this one.
I think we could have had a totally different game against the Chiefs as the Falcons and have shitty playing calling with a fourth and like 1 or 2. They give an outside handoff to Bijan under center. Thought that was a shitty play call. I think you could have drawn something up. You have way too many weapons. I would have been spreading the Chiefs out and trying to make a play personally. And I think you could have a possible win for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I was saying, this team should be a lot better than they have been to start the season. I think it's going to take time for it to click. Logan, I'm curious. Did you watch the end of that game, Falcons Chiefs?
Yeah, I did.
Do you think they should have went for it on that first fourth down, or do you think they should have kicked the field goal with about 5 minutes left?
I was hoping personally because I had him in my pick 'em that Koo would kick it. Um, I think I probably would have kicked the field goal personally, just because you don't want to give the Chiefs the ball. You don't want to give Patrick Mahomes the ball with the real short time, because even if I think they scored the touchdown, they probably still would have been in trouble because the Chiefs just figure it out every time with less than 2 minutes. They're unreal getting down the field, and I don't understand it. I mean, I do understand how they do it. They have one of the best coaches and the best quarterback in the league, but I think I would have kicked a field goal and then tried letting my rely on my defense and then come back and try scoring again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would have kicked the field goal there too. It was 4th and 4 or 4th and goal. You had 4 yards to go to the goal line. Had 5 minutes left in the game. That's a lot of time. Just take the points there. Rely on your defense that has been playing pretty well all game and holding Patrick Mahomes pretty fairly. And I would have relied on the defense and try to get the ball back and go down and score again.
Yeah, I agree with you guys on that. There was a pretty controversial non-pass interference call on that play too that, was basically the game. Sometimes it seems like the Chiefs kind of get lucky sometimes with some of those calls, but it just depends. Sometimes it's how the game goes. The referees can't always catch everything, but I agree with you. I think they definitely should have kicked the field goal and see where it went from there. All right, the next one we got is Jaguars at the Houston Texans. This is at noon on CBS. As it sits right now, the Texans are a 7-point favorite at home. Divisional matchup in the AFC South. Austin, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, big AFC South matchup here. I don't think that the Texans would have been favored near as much if the Jaguars didn't look so bad last game. I think the spread would have been more around 3.5-ish if they didn't look so bad, but they did. So it's obviously going to be that big. I am going to go with the Texans here. I think the Texans got blown out last week. I think they're going to have a big bounce back game here. CJ Stroud looked uncomfortable in some situations, kind of like I expected him to against the Minnesota defense. I thought they were going to put him in some tough situations, but I think he will bounce back with a great game here. I think the Texans have too many weapons on the outside, and I think the Bills kind of exposed them a little bit, putting them in a lot of man-to-man coverage yesterday. And I think the Texans are going to spread it out, use all their weapons, and get a win here over the Jaguars.
Yeah, I agree with that spread. I mean, I wasn't really expecting the Jags to play that bad last night, especially being 0-2 going into that game. you're looking for a little fire, and you had absolutely nothing. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that, and I think you got to at least put a little bit on your head coach at this point. I like Doug Peterson as a coach. He done well after Urban Meyer was just a bad deal for the Jags, and he came in and kind of changed the outlook for the team. But the Jags offensively just struggling, and then that just does not help your defense when they're out on the field a lot. Houston was my team to beat. I picked last week going into week 3, and they got absolutely shelled by the Vikings. I mean, Stroud had 2 interceptions. They had no rush game. Cam Akers had 9 carries for 21 yards. That's just not what you can have as an offense. But I know he didn't get a lot of carries because you were kind of blown out early, and then you're trying to throw the ball. But I definitely agree. I think Houston's definitely going to try spreading the Jags out because I don't think the Jags defense, secondary wise, is going to be able to control Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Stephon Diggs. So for me, I mean, this is a no doubter for me. I've got to take the Houston Texans against the Jags until the Jaguars can prove anything to us.
I agree with you both. I'm definitely going Texans here, especially if they have a chance to get Joe Mixon back this week. Um, you guys gave great analysis, but I do have one bone to pick with this Jaguars team, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Is the Trevor Lawrence contract probably the worst quarterback contract in the NFL right now?
No, not even close. It is by far and away Deshaun Watson. That is one of the worst contracts in NFL history. But it is a very bad contract though.
I mean, he is
So,
playing horribly.
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely take him over the Daniel Jones contract, though. Daniel Jones contract is bad too.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad ones, but first round pick, he just doesn't look like at all like he knows what's going on. He just seems like he's not very confident, has the yips, overthrowing people. He overthrew a guy last night for a pick. So I just think that guy is getting way overpaid, and it's also a coaching thing. But he's got to pick it up if the Jaguars want to go anywhere this year. But they have definitely have not started off on the right foot. All right, fellas. The next game on the slate is Broncos at Jets. This is also at noon on Sunday, CBS in New York, MetLife Stadium. We got, as it sits right now, the New York Jets are 7.5 point favorites. That's pretty substantial. What are you guys' thoughts, Logan?
Well, the Broncos surprised me last week against the Buccaneers. I mean, the Bucks I thought was probably going to steamroll them, and because Denver really hasn't done anything special the first 2 weeks, but Bo Nix played a lot better this week, getting Cortland Sutton the ball a little bit. I mean, for me, Denver's still not the best team, but they showed that they're gonna try winning some football games and they'll be there in the end. Putting up 26 points against the Bucks, I thought was pretty impressive. But going up against the Jets right now, I think the Jets are riding high on that 2-1 record. Just got Aaron Rodgers' big win on Thursday Night Football, and we talked about it last week. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of matchups on who's got the better quarterback, and I know Aaron Rodgers is getting older. I mean, he's 40 years old. I don't know if he'll be here next year. I'm going to say probably he'll play next year, but I can't go against Aaron Rodgers, and especially against a team like this. I mean, I will go against Aaron Rodgers, but against a rookie quarterback and being on top of it, the Jets are going to be at home in this game. I don't think you can go against the Jets, especially how Aaron Rodgers looked. We talked about it earlier. Aaron Rodgers getting outside the pocket on some bootlegs, and he looks good. And on top of that, the Jets offense with the 2 running backs, Brees Hall and Bryant, or the last name Allen. I don't know his first name completely, but that's kind of a dynamic duo by the looks of it. And hopefully, I mean, if they can keep building off that, that's going to allow Aaron Rodgers to get that play action going and get some deep shots to Allen Lazard and Garrett Wilson. And my pick would be the Jets.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to follow you here again, Logan. I think we've had all the same picks so far, but I'm gonna have to roll with the Jets here. I think the Broncos played a really good game last week. I think Sean Payton coached them up really well for last week, but I do think they're gonna come back down to earth here in a very tough road game. Jets looked phenomenal last week. Rodgers is looking more and more healthy, more and more confident in his Achilles. I think that he's going to start establishing that connection with Garrett Wilson, and this Jets team could be really scary down the stretch. So I'm going to pick the Jets here.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. It seemed like this week, at least up to these games we talked about now, are pretty chalky. I'm definitely going to go with the Jets in this game as well. Like you said, the Broncos did play well last week, but I do think the Jets have a better defense, and I think they're rolling better on offense than Tampa Bay was last week. So I'm going to roll with the Jets as well. They've been getting all their playmakers involved, and they've been flying around on defense. So I think they bottle up the run game of the Broncos in this game, and they got shut down corners with Sauce Gardner and the other guys in that secondary. So I'm going to roll with the Jets on this one too. All right, next game we got Vikings at Packers. Personally, I think this is the game of the week. It's at noon on CBS in Lambeau Field, Green Bay. As it sits right now, the Packers are 2.5 point favorites at home against a 3-0 Minnesota Vikings team. Austin, what do you think about this one?
I think this is going to be a great game, great NFC North matchup. A lot of people saying Jordan Love could come back for this game. It's looking like a toss-up right now. Even if he doesn't, Malik Willis has looked really good in his replacement. He has 438 total yards, 3 total touchdowns, and 0 interceptions thrown. He's doing enough for the Packers to win, and I think more importantly, he's not making any mistakes to put their defense in bad position. Matt LaFleur has shown that he's one of the legit coaches in this league. I know whenever he first took over the coaching job as the Packers, there was a little bit of question in the air. He's showing that he's going to be the guy for the Packers moving forward, and their defense is playing outstanding as well. Vikings, on the other hand, look great. They're 3-0, have beaten some really good teams this year, but I think it's just going to be such a tough environment playing a division rival in Lambeau. I think if this game was home for Minnesota, they would probably squeak this out and win, but I think I'm going to roll with the Packers here just because it's in Lambeau.
Yeah, Austin, I can agree with you on a few things. I agree with the Matt LaFleur stuff about people question him as a coach when you started out your career with Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback, and then Jordan Love comes in that last year and just knocks it out of the park pretty much. But he had to actually really coach it up, get Malik Willis. I think he was only came in like around after the preseason, so he hasn't really even got a lot into the offense yet. And Malik Willis last week had almost 300 total yards with 2 total touchdowns. I mean, they played pretty well, and like you said, the defense is playing unreal. But then you look at the Vikings. I was not sold on the Sam Darnold um, stuff coming into the year after JJ McCarthy got injured, which I don't even know if JJ McCarthy would have started right away this year. I think it would have been Sam Darnold anyway. But I think Kevin O'Connell is a great coach, and year in, year out, whoever his quarterback has been with either Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins, he's making it work. And I know Kirk Cousins got a bunch of money, which I just still don't think Kirk Cousins is a complete, superstar quarterback. And Kevin O'Connell just keeps making it work. And especially with that defense, how the Vikings defense has been playing has been unreal for him. And you also have Justin Jefferson, which is just an absolute tank. And I think Jordan Addison might be back this week, which is going to help him even more offensively. Going into Lambeau, I think it'd be tough, but I think I'm going to pick the Vikings with this game. Um, I think it will be very tough to win this game, especially if Jordan Love does come back and play. That could be a complete bone for me, but I am definitely going to go with the Vikings here.
Actually, I think I'm going to side with Logan on this one. I think I'm going to go with the Vikings as well. I think the Jordan Love coming back, if he does this week, actually might not be as good as you think. I mean, he's still going to be hobbled with that knee sprain he suffered in week one. Yeah, if Malik Willis does play, he's been playing good, but it hasn't been through the passing game. I don't think as much as it is with Jordan Love. And I think the Vikings have good enough defense to bottle it up, regardless of who is the quarterback. I do think it's going to be a very close game at Lambeau, but I'm gonna roll with the Vikings. Like I said, I think they have plenty of playmakers on the offense. Logan mentioned Addison coming back. They've been getting Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler involved, and Justin Jefferson is probably the best receiver in the National Football League. So I'm going to roll with the Vikings this week.
Yeah, and I don't think I would push Jordan Love to come back real early, and I probably guess the only reason they are pushing him to come back is probably this would be a really big divisional game for him to get the early win. But I agree. I don't know. Even if Jordan Love does come back, I don't know how mobile he'll be. So I don't know if I'd really push him to come back really early.
I like it. Going against the grain. Go, Pack, go.
All right, boys. The next game we got is Steelers at Colts. This is also at noon on CBS. As it sits right now, the Steelers are a 1.5 point favorite on the road in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. Logan, what do you think about this game?
Well, last week I think I got a little heat for picking Pittsburgh as my surprise team to beat going into week 3, and they showed it last week. I mean, Justin Fields, I thought he was an okay quarterback last year with Chicago. I didn't think Chicago really put him in a lot of great sets for what he's really made for. And since he's went to Pittsburgh, he's been playing really well. He did have a interception last week, but he had a huge, pretty much game-sealing touchdown at the later half of the game. And I just think the way the Steelers is playing, especially with that defense, and the way the defense is playing, going up against Anthony Richardson from the Colts, I'm just not really sold going into the Colts. I'm not really sold on Anthony Richards. I said that last week, and just looking at some stats, he was 10 for 20 last week with 167 yards and 2 interceptions. I'm not really sold on Anthony Richardson as a quarterback himself. They do have a really good run game with Jonathan Taylor. He had 23 carries with 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I'm just not sold on Anthony Richardson. Colts defense is pretty solid, but I don't think I can go against Pittsburgh again. I mean, Pittsburgh's been playing pretty well, and they're getting the job done. And really, their offense hasn't completely clicked, but Fields has been pretty much a great game manager for him, not turning over the ball too much and letting the defense get some rest. And when they do come on the field, they're just playing absolutely insane. So for me, I got to go with sorry, not the Colts. I'm going with the Steelers this week.
Yeah, I think this game is such a tough game to pick. Colts are a lot of boom or bust. Anthony Richardson, like we were saying last week, he'll go out, make insane plays, make you plays that win the game, and he'll also be there to turn the ball over and make plays to lose you the game. Steelers defense is, I think, head and shoulders the best complete unit in the league, and I'm talking offense or defense side of the ball. They're holding teams under 10 points per game so far through 3 games. The 2000 Ravens defense held teams to 10.3 points per game, and they're considered one of the greatest defenses of all time. So they're no joke. With that being said, I do think that this is just going to be one of those random games where Anthony Richardson is going to make crazy plays, and the Colts are going to somehow find a way to win this game. Steelers defense is very scary, but I think Justin Fields will show a little bit of his true colors this week, and I'm going to pick Colts to win this game home.
Yeah, I agree with you guys' points of bold on this game a lot. But I'm actually going to go with the Colts in this game. I'm kind of with Austin a little bit. I think this is a game that Anthony Richardson can get out and make plays like he usually can on his feet. It seems like sometimes the Steelers defensive ends, TJ Watt and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they kind of get upfield too much, and I think he's going to be able to slip through and run up the middle for some big plays. And I think the Steelers defense is beatable deep on the passing game. So I think the Steelers are probably the better team, but I think the Colts are going to squeak this one out on the back of Anthony Richardson and also getting Jonathan Taylor involved in the running game. All right, our next game is Rams in Chicago against the Bears. This game is also noon on Fox. As it sits right now, the Bears are 2.5 point favorites at home against the LA Rams. Austin, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a close game. The Rams are very injured. Cooper Kupp's, they already announced him he's going to be out for this week. Puka Nacua is on the IR, so he's out at least 4 weeks. But I think Sean McVay showed last week why Logan said that he was a top 3 coach in the league. They were down early against the 49ers last week. They had no business coming back and winning that game, but that just goes to show you Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford can go out there and make plays and make big plays when they need to. I just don't think the Bears are quite in sync yet. I do think at some point this season they are going to figure it out, and I think Caleb Williams will be just okay. I know he hasn't looked the best yet, but I think some point in the season he'll figure it out. I just got to trust Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford here, and I think I'm going to pick the Rams to find a way to win this game.
Yeah, Austin, I have to agree with you on that. Looking at last week's game for Chicago, they're trying to make Caleb Williams almost do too much. You can't. I mean, he had 52 passing attempts last week, and they have literally like no rushing. Like they have nobody run the ball. DeAndre Swift and the other running back Johnson, like nobody's helping him out. Like it's pretty much being reliant on Caleb Williams and only being your third week in the NFL. Like, yeah, you can be the most dominant college football player you want to be, but NFL's a little different. You can't run around, make plays because you got dudes screaming at you. And I mean, the Bears have a lot of offensive talent, but for me, yeah, Austin, I have to agree with the Sean McVay talk. Last week, going into this game, I was like, man, there's no chance to even beat the 49ers. And they actually stayed in the game and played well. They still don't have a wide receiver that you can completely rely on. I was pretty excited to see Tutu Atwell actually get the ball some. He's kind of our deep threat kind of guy, which hopefully when they get some Puka Nacua back and Cooper Kupp, they continue to use Tutu Atwell for the deep action. Um, for me, though, it's going to come down to can Kyron Williams make the plays? They kind of relied on him last week. He didn't have a ton of rushing yards, but every time they need a big play, Kyron Williams is pretty much getting the ball because that's one of your only offensive threats. So for me, I'm going to have to go with the Rams in this game because I just don't think Chicago's completely ready, like Austin said. But I think in weeks to come, Chicago's going to be a better football team. But just to be this week, I'm going to have to go with the Rams.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rise. I think the Rams are a better team. I think a lot hinges on if Keenan Allen comes back in this game for the Bears. I think Caleb Williams kind of misses him. He's trying to throw the ball deep. He's trying to make plays with his feet, kind of like you said, Logan, doing too much. And Keenan Allen's kind of that safety valve beneath 10 to 15-yard passes. If he gets him back this week, which it's a possibility, I think the Bears have a chance in this game. But I agree. I think the Rams are going to be able to do too much against this Bears defense, which is a good defense. But like you said, Tutu had played really well last week. Kyron Williams played really well last week, and Stafford, is always consistent. So I think the Rams are going to go on the road and get a big win in Chicago. All right, boys. The next game we got is Eagles at Bucks in Tampa Bay. This game is at noon on Fox in Tampa Bay. As it sits right now, the Eagles are 2.5-point favorites in the game. This is a pretty big game for each team. Bucks looked like they were going to be a good team at the start of the season, but they kind of struggled last week, and the Eagles picked it up again last week, as you typically see with them. What do you guys think, Logan?
I think this is going to be our first game that we've all been picking that everybody's probably going to have split decisions on, truthfully. Um, for me, after watching last week's game, Philly was really having like a dominant performance, I'd say, offensively. You just didn't see all the points go up like you would really expect. I'm kind of in between on Nick Sirianni. I don't know really how to feel about him. Like, I don't know what to say about him. But at the end of the day, you got Jalen Hurts and now Saquon Barkley. I mean, clearly the guy's turning the game around. He's helping Jalen Hurts out a lot. I mean, Saquon Barkley had 17 carries for 147 yards with a touchdown last week. For me, watching Tampa last week, I wasn't really impressed. It was a game that I really didn't expect him to lose. So, for me, I definitely have to go with the Eagles this week. I think Philly's going to score a lot more points, and I'm not real sure what Tampa's really going to be looking like going into week 4. So, for me, I think it's going to have to be a Philly pick for me.
Yeah, I hate picking this game on Tuesday night right now. I think this game solely depends on if the Eagles are getting their weapons back. Um, I know they're have been out AJ Brown the last couple weeks. Devonta Smith got banged up last week. And I said last week that I really like Jalen Hurts, but gosh, it's just so hard to do that without your two biggest weapons on offense. I think right now I'm gonna have to just pick the Bucks. If I have to make a pick right now, I'll pick the Bucks. I really wish I could pick later in the week, but I'm gonna go with Bucks here just because I know more what they're gonna have on Sunday.
No, I agree with you, Austin. It's kind of hard to pick this game with the question marks that the Eagles have on offense as far as injuries with Brown and Smith being in concussion protocol. But I agree with you. I think I'm going to go with the Bucks as it sits right now. I think last week was a bit of a game they kind of got caught off guard with probably a different play calling scheme that the Broncos came out with than what they did the first few weeks. I think they have a better defense than the Eagles. The Eagles have a lot of playmakers on defense, but they don't seem to work cohesively as a unit. I think this game at home for Tampa also helps them. So I'm going to roll with Tampa. I think Baker gets Mike Evans and Godwin involved more this week. He did throw a lot to Cade Otton last week at the tight end position too, so that was good to see from an offensive standpoint. Rashad White's always good, and Bucky Irving has come on strong too as a rookie. So I'm going to roll with the Bucks this one as well. But like you said, this one's very tough to pick early on in the week with the injury question marks that the Eagles have on offense.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much relying on AJ Brown and Devontae Smith coming back this week. But also, I feel like every game for Nick Sirianni is like a game for him to like, hey, that's why I'm your head coach. Because I still think that if he doesn't do very well this year, even though he's had all the success the years before, I don't think he'll be there next year.
He's definitely approaching the hot seat. I will say that.
For sure. That's kind of like this is like kind of like a big. I don't think you can go 2-2.
Like you said in the last game, McVay is very good at in-game adjustments. I feel like Sirianni's the total opposite. It seems like he
Yeah.
always makes the wrong call from a coaching standpoint.
And to me, he's not very consistent on like what he does. Like sometimes he'll go for like real long fourth downs, and then sometimes you have like a 4th and 3, and he's either kicking a field goal or punt it. And it's like you just went fart on a lot longer 4th down call, and now you're not like at some point you gotta be consistent in what you do. Kind of like a Dan Campbell. I mean that guy. It doesn't matter. He's usually going fart.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles, at least with Sirianni's got to get back to being more consistent from his standpoint, like he was in the year they made all the way to the Super Bowl. It seemed
Right.
like they were very they were very aggressive on the offensive side of the ball, going for it on 4th downs, running crazy plays. I think if they can get back to that, they can get back to the being the Eagles that we've been used to in the past couple of years. But I think for sure Sirianni's got to pick it up.
Yeah. He just needs an identity. You gotta go one way or the other, and I think he's like in the middle right now.
All right, the next game we have on the slate is our first afternoon game. This one's Sunday at 3 o'clock Central Time. This is in San Francisco. It's against Patriots and 49ers. As it sits right now, the 49ers are a 10-point favorite at home against New England. That's a crazy spread in the NFL nowadays. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this game? Austin?
Yeah, so I seen something today actually, and each of the first 3 weeks, the team that had the largest spread has lost. So the teams that have had the largest spread to win are 0-3 in the first 3 weeks. So and then this is going to be the biggest spread here going into week 4. With that being said, I don't see the 49ers losing though. I think they'll have a huge bounce back game against a very bad Patriots team. The 49ers did look good last week. They kind of just couldn't pull it off in the end. Brock Purdy played really well, and he proved that he can play well without some of his playmakers and Debo and George Kittle being out. I know that was always kind of a question mark as if is he going to be able to perform well if his best players aren't on the field, but he was 22 of 30, 292 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Pretty damn good stat line without having 2 of your biggest offensive playmakers. Well, 3, I guess, without Christian McCaffrey as well. I think they'll come in. Kyle Shanahan will get them ready after a loss last week, and I think they'll beat up a pretty bad Patriots team.
Yeah, Austin, I gotta agree with you on that one too. I don't think San Francisco even has a shot at losing this game personally. I mean, I don't know who's going to be coming back for him on the offensive side. I know CMC won't be playing for him, but like you said last week, I didn't think they played a bad game. They just couldn't pull it off in the end. I mean, Juwan Jennings had 11 catches for 175 yards with 3 touchdowns. That's ridiculous. Great stream play for me in a couple leagues. I mean, that was a complete shot in the dark.
Who said it at the end of the last segment though that if you want to plug and put someone in your lineup that he's the go-to guy?
Was that your pick last week?
Take credit for that, yes sir.
Attaboy. But yeah, I just think San Francisco is going to run away with this game, and I think it might look a lot like the Jets game did last week for him because Jacoby Brissett's struggling. I said it last week. He's a good backup quarterback, but he's not a starter. But he doesn't have a lot of help either on the offense. I mean, there's nobody doing anything. They can't run the ball. there's just a lot of question marks for me on New England, and I just don't see myself picking New England in many games this year. So I got to roll with the 49ers at home this week.
Yeah, I agree with you both. I think this is pretty easy for me. I'm going to take the 49ers here to win at home. Like you said, Logan, Patriots just have too many question marks on defense and on offense. They looked pretty good in the first 2 weeks, but they looked terrific last week. Could not run the ball, couldn't pass. They have injuries on the offensive line that prevents them from able to prevent defenders from getting to the quarterback. So Purdy played good enough last week. They just didn't come out with the win. Dewan Jennings looked good. Backups are playing well for them, and Jordan Mason and other guys on offense. So I think I'm gonna roll with them as well this week. All right, the next game on the slate is also an afternoon game. It's Washington Commanders at Arizona Cardinals. This game is on Fox, and as it sits right now, Arizona is a 3-point favorite at home. What do you guys think about this one, Logan?
I think this game's going to be another toss up game in between everybody. For me, last week, I thought Arizona really didn't play terribly. Kyler Murray played okay. They didn't have a lot of help running the football, though. And I think that's going to kind of change this week. I think James Conner's going to kind of get back on his game against Washington's defensive front. But on the other hand, Jaden Daniels last night looked phenomenal. I mean, 21 for 23 with 254 yards with 2 touchdowns and pretty much the game sealer, Terry McLaurin late. That looked like a proven vet throw at the end of the game to Terry McLaurin. Jaden Daniels is playing out of his mind and he's running the ball well and not taking a lot of hits. And I think that's the big thing when you're trying to get your mobile quarterbacks out. They got to know when to get down. And, it takes a lot of guys early to learn that. And I think he's starting to learn it early. I was at a time, it usually takes him longer to learn when to get down. And Jaden Daniels is starting to notice, like, hey, you got to get down. But for me, Jaden Daniels is playing really well. He's starting to find a connection with Terry McLaurin. But I think the Cardinals at home is going to be the team to win this week.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be a very fun one to watch. I think you got two quarterbacks that are very, very similar. I think Daniels likes to sit in the pocket a little bit more. Kyler likes to get out and scramble a little bit more, but they have very similar playing styles nonetheless. I mean, Commanders look great. Jaden Daniels looks as explosive as you can. Like you said, that last throw he made to Terry McLaurin looked like a 10-year vet standing in the pocket, delivering it on the last drive for them. With that being said, I'm a big believer in Kyler Murray. I think when he's on the field and healthy, he's a great quarterback in this league. And I just think what you're going to get more out of Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals than what you're going to get out of the Commanders team. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Arizona Cardinals to win in a pretty high-scoring game.
Yeah, I agree with you guys both on from your standpoints on the Commanders and the Cardinals. This was a tough one to pick. The over under this game is 50.5, so it seems like it's going to be a very high scoring game. So, like Austin said, it should be very exciting to watch. But I'm actually going to go with the Commanders in this one, and I think solely because I think Jaden Daniels is just riding, a better play right now than the Cardinals are. He looked phenomenal last night, like you guys said. They do have a decent amount of weapons with Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson Jr. and Eckler got involved last week as well. So I think that's big for them. And this is strictly a gut pick, so I'm just going to roll with the Commanders. All right, our last game. Now, not our last game here in the afternoon slate. They got one more left to go, but this game is Chiefs at Chargers in LA at SoFi Stadium on CBS. As it sits right now, the Chiefs are an 8.5-point favorite on the road in LA. Guys, what do you think about this game, Austin?
Yeah, for this one, it's kind of tough. I think the Chiefs and more specifically Mahomes really haven't looked like themselves this year. But let's be honest, they're still the Chiefs. They're always going to find a way to win, even when they don't play the best, which is what they've done the first 3 games of the season. And I think that shows a lot about Andy Reid and what kind of coach he is. Justin Herbert got banged up late in that game last week. He got taken out in the third quarter, and the Chargers offense had -5 total yards in the second half, which Herbert didn't play most of it. I think the Chiefs would win either way if Herbert was here, but without Herbert, I think there's no chance that the Chargers can win this game. So I'm going Chiefs.
Yeah, I can't agree anymore with you, Austin. Especially Justin Herbert being banged up. Not sure if he's even going to play this week. And the Chiefs, they're the Chiefs. You can't really ever bet against them, especially they haven't played that well beginning of the year, but they always figure it out how to win. And you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I hate to say it, but they're one of the best QB quarterback or QB and coach duos probably be around a long time. So there's not a doubt in my mind Kansas City's going to come out of this game easily.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think both teams have major playmakers in injury report this week. Pacheco's out for a while still with the Chiefs, and I doubt Justin Herbert plays. He got a high ankle sprain. He aggravated it again last week, like Austin said in the third quarter. Um, I think the Chiefs win this game. I think they're just a better team. I think they have that right now. They have the best defense stats wise in the NFL. So it's hard to be picking hard to be picked against them this week. So I'm going to roll with the Chiefs as well on the road in LA. All right, our next game in the afternoon slate is the Cleveland Browns at the Las Vegas Raiders. This game is on CBS, and as it sits right now, the Raiders are a home favorite by 1 point in Vegas. So, Raiders had a tough week last week against the Panthers. Browns also had a tough week last week. Logan, what do you think about this game?
I don't know even how to pick it. Uh, Cleveland's, I really thought Cleveland would win last week, and New York kind of surprised them being at home. Cleveland again, Deshaun Watson. I mean, he did play a little better last week. He had almost 200 yards with 2 touchdowns, but just still he doesn't have that X factor like he did years ago in Houston. Um, for me, I just don't see Cleveland really winning this game. Personally, I think the Raiders will win this game, especially how last week ended. Antonio Pierce was pissed, and I think you're going to see a fired up Raiders team coming out and playing some ball for him. Not sure who's even going to play a quarterback this week. I would guess maybe Gardner Minshew will come back, but at some point you're going to get Zamir White going, and this might be the week. I'm not sure though because Cleveland's defense. If you have one bright spot for Cleveland, their defense is solid, but you can't just rely on your defense. So I think you're gonna have a pissed off Antonio Pierce's Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders come out, and I think they're gonna win this game against Cleveland. I think it'd be a really close game, but I think it also helps that the Raiders would be at home this week.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same path with you of like I don't even know where to start with these two teams or where to pick. Browns look just completely awful this season. Just lost 21-15 against a terrible Giants team, and then the Raiders just got destroyed against the Carolina Panthers. But I just keep falling into the trap of picking the Cleveland Browns each week just because I know their potential in that defensive unit. I think I'm going to go ahead and do it again here this week. It pains me to say, but I'm just more confident in the Browns defense than I am with anything that the Raiders have to offer.
Yeah, like I agree with you guys. This is a very tough game to pick. I think I'm going to side with Logan though, and I'm going to go with the Raiders. I do know that Cleveland is a little banged up on defense. I think Myles Garrett got hurt last game, so that's a big hit. And their offense, they just have no run game. Jerome Ford has not been able to get going, and teams have been bottling up the passing game. And Deshaun Watson is not as dynamic in the open field like he used to be. Like Logan said, I think the Raiders come into this game fired up after a horrible performance last week. Antonio Pierce is a good coach. He's a very good motivator. I think the Raiders have a bunch of leaders on this team with Crosby and Devontae Adams to help get them motivated as well. I did report earlier today that I think they're going to continue to roll with Gardner Minshew this week. So, that helps with a little bit of continuity in the offense. Aiden O'Connell came in late last week and looked okay, but not great. I think the Raiders get back in form like they were the week before against the Ravens. And I think they come and win this game at home on Sunday afternoon. All right, our last game of Sunday is the Sunday night game. It's on NBC as it sits right now. Let's see here. The Ravens are actually 2.5 point favorites at home against the Buffalo Bills. Sunday night game. What do you guys think about this one?
Yeah, I know, Bryant, you said earlier that you thought the Packers and Minnesota Vikings was game of the week. This is my game of the week right here. Bills at Ravens, Sunday Night Football. We got my MVP, Superman himself, Josh Allen, and a very good, high-powered, explosive Bills team. versus a very determined two-time MVP in Lamar Jackson. Think it's going to be a great game. But I think the Ravens figured out a little bit about themselves last week as they rushed for a total of 274 yards. They got a little bit of identity with that. If they want to win this game against the Bills, they're going to need to control the clock and the time of possession. And I think in order to do that, they're going to have to pound the football and control the line of scrimmage. If they get down to the Bills in this game, and if they have to throw the ball a bunch, I don't see them losing, or I don't see them winning, sorry. But I think that with them, especially being home, I think Lamar Jackson's very determined right now. I think the Ravens will control the line of scrimmage and find a way to win this game.
So you're taking the Ravens here, Austin?
I'm taking the Ravens as much as I love Josh Allen. That's my guy.
Yeah, so I gotta go against you on this one. After watching last night's game with the Bills, Josh Allen, that Bills offense is absolutely clicking. And honestly, it doesn't look like the Bills can do anything wrong right now. I think it's definitely going to be a shock for them because you're going into Baltimore to play this game. It's going to be a tough game, especially being on Sunday night. I like that Stephon Diggs is out of Buffalo because now Josh Allen doesn't have to worry about giving the guy the ball a bunch because he is kind of a drama scene all the time if he wasn't getting the ball there. So I like the new look offense with Shakir, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid. I like James Cook. I like that. I like spreading the wealth around a little bit, and that just helps Josh Allen play better personally, in my thoughts. Baltimore, like you said, Austin, if they want to win this game, they're going to have to run the football because, again, I said it last week, you cannot rely on Lamar Jackson's arm to save you getting down early. I don't think he makes the big throws, and I don't think he can. I mean, he can make the big throws. I just don't think accuracy-wise he has it to be that bona fide winner every week. To me, though, I think this would be a really tough game because if it does start out hand in hand, like throwing shots at each other, and it comes down to the end, I could see Baltimore definitely having a chance of winning this game. But like you said, if Buffalo gets out early, I don't think the Ravens are going to be able to come back, and I do think Buffalo will get out early and come out with a win.
Yeah, good points, guys. This game, I think it comes down to which defense plays better. I think the Bills have a better defense than the Ravens do at this point in the season. But both teams are actually playing pretty well on the offensive side of the ball. Josh Allen surprising me with his passing, even though all of the weapons he lost. James Cook is very dynamic out of the backfield, and they got Kincaid going last week. But also the Ravens, Derrick Henry had a monster game last week. Zay Flowers is probably a lot better than we thought he'd be. But they really need a secondary receiver to step up. Likely was good in week one, but he's kind of fallen off. And Mark Andrews has had one target last week. So that's just very weird to me. That being said, I think it's going to be a very tough game, Baltimore in prime time on Sunday, but I'm going to go with the Bills. I think they pull this one out late on the back of a defensive stop. Finally, we move on to Monday night here. We have two games again like we did in week 3 on Monday night. The first one is Titans at Dolphins. Titans going to Miami. Miami is actually a 1-point favorite in this game at home on Monday night. So what do you guys think about this one?
For me, I don't think this would be even really a game if Tua was playing, but you got Skylar Thompson now playing quarterback for Miami. I don't know. This last week they did not look good, and I did see a crazy stat today when I was reading some stuff that Miami hasn't had a lead in a game yet. Like that's pretty crazy. They can't even get a lead. But you do have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane. They got a lot of playmakers, but you got to have somebody getting the ball too. And I don't know if Skylar Thompson can do that. I don't even know if he's going to play this week because I know he did get beat up at the end of the game. But even though whoever's playing quarterback for him, I just don't know if they're going to be able to get the job done completely. But then on the flip side, too, Tennessee has not looked good. I mean, their defense is okay, but Will Levis, I don't know what to say about the guy. They have really no rushing attack. But on the bright side, they do have DeAndre Hopkins. He is getting older. And you have Calvin Ridley. And now you have Tony Pollard, but Pollard really hasn't done much for him, at least last week. I mean, the first couple of weeks he was okay. For me, this is going to be a toss-up, and I think it's going to be a toss-up for everybody. I didn't want to take this team, and I don't think I was planning on take this team, but as I talked myself into it, I think I'm going to take Miami this week just because I think they have so many playmakers. If you're just a quarterback and throw the ball 5 yards and give them guys a little bit of space, they're like a track team. So I think if you just give your playmakers the ball short and hope to God that Mike McDaniels can do something, draw some plays up for him, I think Miami is going to sneak one out here. But I'm not completely confident in that pick because I'm not confident in either team.
Yeah, a lot what Logan said. I think this is going to be a very ugly, low-scoring game. Dolphins looked absolutely terrible, absolutely out of place without Tua last week. And I really don't want to pick any of these teams. I guess I'm going to pick the Dolphins because I think Mike McDaniel will have a better scheme this week. And I just don't like anything about the Tennessee Titans. So I'm just going to go Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said. I think this game's going to be a rather boring game to watch, probably a snooze fest. Vegas thinks so too. The over-under is only 36.5. So, like you said, I think Mike McDaniel is going to come in with a better scheme this week and getting Skylar Thompson, if he is the quarterback, in the open field and letting him use his feet. He's pretty mobile, getting Waddle and Achane and Tyreek Hill the ball. And I think they have a better chance of winning than they did last week. Titans, it just seems like there's only one player that steps up each week, and it's hard to win football games in the NFL when you have only one player on offense that seems to be clicking every week. Their defense is good, like Logan said, but I'm going to side with Miami on this one. All right, our last game of the week is Seahawks at the Detroit Lions. This game's at 7:15 tomorrow, or sorry, not tomorrow, Monday of this week. As it sits right now, the Lions are 3.5-point favorites at home. What do you guys think about this final game of the week?
Yeah, I think this will be a great game to end the football slate off with this week. The Seahawks have looked great this year so far. They're 3-0. They have a established offense. Geno Smith's looking great. The weapons are looking great. And I tell you what, Mike McDonald in his first year with Seattle, it looks like he knows what he's doing over there. It's very impressive what he's done with this team so far. With that being said, I also think the Lions haven't really looked all that great leading up to this game, or especially not as good as a lot of people may have expected them. I do think, though, in this game, they do kind of figure out their identity here a little bit. They're going to control the line of scrimmage against Seattle, I think, and get the ball to your playmakers and Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and David Montgomery. I think they'll find a way to get their playmakers in space, make plays. I think the Lions are going to win this one.
Yeah, Austin, I got to agree with you. Seattle's looked good to start the year off, and I know them being at home sorry, they're not at home. I thought they were at home. It'd be in Detroit. Yeah, that changes my mood a lot about this game. But Seattle has looked really good the first 3 weeks, but I agree. The Lions are a tough team to play because they're so physical. And then now you're going to put them at home this week against the 3-0 Seahawks. I think you're going to see the ground and pound game again. David Montgomery had 105 yards rushing last week, and then you get the dynamic back of Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't see I think it's going to be a really good game, but I don't see how Seattle could win this game, especially going into Detroit. Detroit has looked vulnerable on the defensive side at points, but I think you're going to see them really step it up, and you're going to get a big win out of the Lions this week.
All right, yeah, I kind of agree with both of you guys on this game. Lions have been playing, not as good as everybody thought they would this season. That being said, the Seahawks are 3-0, but they haven't played the greatest opponents. There's been 2 key injuries for both teams. Ken Walker's probably still out for this game. Seattle at running back. Laporta also got injured last week with high ankle sprain and tried to come back and then took himself back out of the game. So on this game, I think I'm going to go with the Lions. I think they kind of figured out scheme-wise this game and get their momentum going at home, prime time on Monday night. I think the Lions get the win. All right, everyone. That wraps up our picks for the week and our analysis of each game. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show this week on Deep Threat Sports Network's NFL podcast. We do have one more quick thing to go over. We're each going to give a survivor pick for this week. You can either run with us, you can go against us. You can dive into our picks and see if you like them or not. That being said, I'm going to start with Austin. Austin, what's your survivor pick of the week?
Yeah, I got to go 49ers against Patriots. It's in San Francisco here. I love picking home teams in Survivor. picks. I think the home field advantage is so big in the NFL. And a lot like what I was saying earlier, the Patriots are just not an overall good team. They don't really have any strong suits anywhere on their team. Um, I know the 49ers are going to have a lot of question marks coming in this team with their a lot of their key players having question marks like Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and then Christian McCaffrey is going to be out. But like I said earlier, I just think that Kyle Shanahan will coach the 49ers up coming off a loss. And Brock Purdy's shown last week that even without some of the key players, that he'll be able to still play well enough in order to get a win against the Patriots here.
Yeah, for me this week, I'm gonna have to go with the Cowboys at the Giants. I don't really like Cowboys being on the road, but for me, both teams being 1-1 or 1-2, I think this is a must win almost for the Cowboys. If you want to keep your fan base like settled down and like following you and being a true like we got this season, possibly to win the division, you have to win this week. So that's kind of like my go-to this week is going to be the Cowboys at the Giants. I think it's going to be a close game, but I do think the Cowboys have come out with a big win.
Yeah, those are both good picks, boys. But I think I'm going to roll with Houston this week. This is a divisional game against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has not looked good at all this season. Houston had an okay game last week, but it was against a very good Vikings team. I think they get the ball rolling this week again, get the ball in their playmakers' hands, whoever it may be on that offense. They're loaded. So I like them at home this week. They're a 7-point favorite. That's good for a survivor pick. So I'm going to roll with Houston this week. All right, that's all we have for this week's NFL podcast on Deep Threat Sports Network. I want to thank Logan and Austin for joining me and Colin allowing me to step in for Josh this week. It was a good show. We dove deep into every game and gave our picks for each game, as well as a little bit of analysis from last week and our review of picks from the week before. I want to thank the listeners. Please like, subscribe, share our shows, whether it be on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you may find our podcast. Also, ask questions. We'll be glad to answer them, whatever it may be. Logan, Austin.
I'd just like to thank everybody for listening, and hopefully we give everybody a little bit of a different outlook or the same outlook that they already had and can help back them up with their thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Like Bryant was saying, share it. Share it to anyone you know, family, friends. And then in the comments, if you agree or disagree with any of our takes, go ahead, let us know down there, and we'd be happy to maybe reply to a comment or something.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, fellas. Thanks to everybody listening. We'll catch you next week after week 4 is over, and we'll review the games that happen this coming week and then on to week 5. Until then, peace.